I never thought I'd be the one holding the knife, metaphorically speaking, in a marriage I believed was mine. My name is Clara Jensen, and for 12 years, I was the model wife. Quiet, supportive, smiling at family photos, laughing at his jokes, and letting the world think I had it all. Until I found out he wasn't the man I married. It started with small things, messages he'd delete, late nights at work, unexplained withdrawals from our joint account. But the first time I saw him with her, I knew it wasn't small anymore. I was at the gym, picking up his favorite protein shake for him. He'd forgotten it again, and my phone buzzed. A notification from a friend I didn't know existed. "He's here with someone. Thought you should know." I didn't reply. My stomach churned as I watched the screen of my phone, hesitating between disbelief and denial. But instinct is cruel and precise. I grabbed my coat, didn't take my purse, and followed the directions in the text. I found them at a nearby cafe, laughing like our 12-year-old memories meant nothing. And her, radiant and leaning in, hand brushing against his. I froze for a moment, but then something clicked. I had always believed I was powerless, that love meant loyalty, that my patience and care were enough. I realized I had been standing on a cliff while he dug a tunnel beneath my feet. And suddenly, I was furious, not the shaky, crying kind of fury, but sharp, calculating, dangerous. I didn't confront him that day. I walked home quietly, pretending everything was normal. My kids were in the living room, drawing, oblivious to the storm brewing. I kissed them, tucked them in, and then retreated to my office, the place no one ever thought I'd use for war. I started collecting evidence: bank statements, credit card logs, GPS data. Every lie, every excuse, every late-night meeting became a breadcrumb. I hired a private investigator who specialized in cheating spouses. Within a week, I had emails, hotel receipts, and photos that made my stomach twist. The final piece came as a video clip: him and her at a hotel 2 blocks from our home, smiling, careless, utterly unafraid. I felt a sick satisfaction, a clarity I hadn't known was possible. I was no longer the wife who forgave. I was the wife who strikes first, who plans, who doesn't flinch. And I would make sure he understood what betrayal really cost. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat down with a pen, a pad, and a timeline. This wasn't about revenge, yet it was about control. By the time he realized the battlefield had shifted, I would already be miles ahead, orchestrating every move with precision. Because this was my marriage, my life, my choice. And for the first time, I wasn't scared to take it back. I spent that night awake, staring at the ceiling while my mind ran circles faster than I could catch. I remembered the mornings when I'd wake him with coffee, when he'd joke about how lucky he was to have me. And now, those same words tasted like poison. Every smile, every touch, every "I love you" fake, all of it. By sunrise, I had made decisions. The first step contained the damage before it spread. I changed passwords, froze accounts, and set up alerts on every financial portal we used. I quietly withdrew a portion of savings into an account only I could access. He thought I trusted him, that I would never question, never act. Next, the evidence. I had my investigator pull everything he could legally find: texts, emails, photos, receipts, and I cross-checked them myself, line by line, until there wasn't a single lie unaccounted for. It was meticulous work, and I loved every second of it. For once, my rage had a rhythm, a structure, a weaponized intelligence. The audacity of their affair stunned me. Hotels in the city I worked in, dinners I was told were networking events, weekends with the girls that were actually with her. And then, the final insult. He had taken our kids' college fund out of joint accounts to fund a trip for the 2 of them. I didn't call him. I didn't confront her yet. I played the calm wife, the perfect mask. Every day, I smiled, prepared their favorite meals, even asked about his day. But inside, I was building a storm he would never see coming. Every lie he had told became a building block for his own collapse. Then I went to the attorney. I needed advice, a plan, legal artillery. Divorce? Custody? Financial protections? I told her everything, showed her the evidence, my calculations, the timeline. She looked at me like she'd underestimated me for years. "You're precise," she said quietly. That wasn't a compliment. It was a warning. While he bragged about his weekend trips with her on social media, I collected proof of every indiscretion. Photos time-stamped, credit card records, GPS logs all neatly organized, ready to hit like a hammer. And the best part? He didn't know I was watching every move, analyzing every conversation, recording every casual slip of the tongue that exposed the depth of their betrayal. Then came the night. I saw them in our neighborhood, her laughing at something he whispered, walking just a block away from the house we shared. Completely unaware I was in the shadows, camera in hand. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I documented every expression, every touch, every lie frozen for legal and personal reckoning. That's when I realized I wasn't just angry. I wasn't just hurt. I was unstoppable. And this wasn't about revenge in the petty sense. This was about reclaiming everything he thought he could steal: my dignity, my security, my family's future. I leaned against the wall, breath steady, fingers tight around my phone. I whispered to myself, "Clara Jensen doesn't lose. Not this time." I watched him from the kitchen window as he walked down the driveway, briefcase in hand, whistling the same tune he'd used to hum when life felt uncomplicated. I didn't flinch. I didn't yell. I didn't call him out. I poured myself a glass of wine and smiled. I had all the time in the world, because now everything I did had purpose. Every detail I'd gathered over the past 2 weeks became a weapon, and I wielded it like a surgeon. I reviewed bank statements, cross-checked credit card charges, mapped GPS locations from his phone, and collated hotel receipts. Every lie he'd told, every business trip that wasn't, every dinner with clients that was actually with her, it was all here, all meticulously organized. And I knew the moment I unleashed it, there would be no coming back. The hardest part wasn't collecting evidence. Then came the perfect stroke. I hired a private investigator to follow their patterns. Within 3 days, I had video footage of her leaving his office late at night, GPS confirming their weekend getaway that coincided with a training seminar he had claimed to attend alone, and even hotel check-ins that lined up with bank charges he tried to pass off as work expenses. Every indiscretion, every lie, meticulously recorded and ready for presentation. I compiled everything into a single, clean, organized file. Bank statements, hotel receipts, GPS maps, photos, videos, text, messages, emails. The evidence wasn't just overwhelming, it was undeniable. And I knew that when I revealed it, their arrogance, their confidence, their belief that I was still oblivious would crumble instantly. I didn't confront them immediately. I let my mind plan the moment perfectly. I sent a neutral email to him, asking for a financial consultation. She would follow him, naturally, and that was when I'd strike. I prepared the conference room downtown, neutral, sterile, professional. No dramatic gestures, no shouting, just me, the files, and a lawyer. That was all I needed. When the day arrived, they walked in laughing, completely unaware. She carried the same perfume I once bought for his anniversary. He wore his confident smile. I slid the envelope across the table. Their faces changed instantly. Confusion, shock, then panic flickered in their eyes. I didn't speak. I just watched. Bank statements, GPS logs, photos, they couldn't deny a single thing. She whispered, "Clara, I can explain." I shook my head. No explanations, only consequences. And that's when I realized I wasn't just a wronged wife anymore. I was a force. Every lie they'd lived, every betrayal they'd plotted, had led to this precise moment. They had underestimated me. They had believed I was weak. And now, in a quiet, controlled room, I proved them utterly wrong. I leaned back in my chair and smiled, dangerous, calm, unshakable. Because from this moment forward, I wasn't playing the wife. I was the architect of their undoing, and nothing they could say or do would stop me. The day of the meeting, I woke up before sunrise. The house was quiet, the kids still asleep, unaware of the storm about to descend. I dressed carefully, sharp, neutral, professional. No flashy jewelry, no makeup to hide emotions. Just a calm, controlled presence that would speak louder than any words I could use. I glanced at the files one last time. Every email, every receipt, Every GPS ping was there. Nothing could be disputed. Nothing could be ignored. When I arrived at the co-working space downtown, the conference room was empty, sterile, perfect. I set the envelope on the table, positioned my laptop with backups, and reviewed my notes. My lawyer arrived 5 minutes later, brief and efficient, asking, "Are you ready to end this?" I nodded. Ready wasn't the word. I was calculating, inevitable, unstoppable. They arrived together, confident, smiling, unaware. She still carried herself like she owned the world. He had that smug, casual arrogance he always wore. I let them settle in, let the silence grow just long enough to make them uneasy. Then I slid the envelope toward them. No preamble, no theatrics, just evidence. I laid out the facts. The bank transfers she tried to hide, linked directly to him. The hotel receipts, the GPS logs, the photos of them together. Every lie cross-referenced, every excuse demolished. My lawyer reinforced the legal consequences, the implications for custody, for shared assets, and even for their professional reputations. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just let the truth speak, like a hammer hitting glass. Her hands trembled as she realized I had anticipated every move. He swallowed hard, his confident facade cracking. Every excuse they had rehearsed, every attempt to charm or manipulate, collapsed in front of meticulous evidence. I watched them squirm, silently, deliberately. This wasn't revenge for spectacle, it was revenge for precision, for betrayal. For every moment they thought they could outsmart me. By the end, she was pale, eyes wide, voice quivering. "Please, this can't be real." I leaned forward slightly, calm, cold. "It's very real. And now its consequences." He tried to speak, to argue, but I didn't flinch. My lawyer closed the file, gave a final nod, and I felt the weight of control settle over me. As they left, defeated, broken, and exposed, I felt a strange calm wash over me. This wasn't hatred. This wasn't triumph in the cruel sense. This was clarity. Every betrayal accounted for, every lie documented, and most importantly, I had protected what mattered most: my children, my security, my dignity. For the first time in months, I exhaled deeply. I was no longer just a betrayed wife. I was the force that no one could underestimate. The woman who had taken control of a life others tried to ruin. And I knew, without a shadow of doubt, that the storm they had created for me had now been returned not in chaos, but in absolute, undeniable justice. After they left, I sat in the conference room for a long moment, letting the silence sink in. The city outside moved on, oblivious to the collapse I had orchestrated in these four walls. For the first time in months, I felt the heavy weight on my chest lift. I wasn't just free of betrayal, I was untouchable. I returned home, unlocked the door, and found the kids in the living room, giggling over a puzzle. Their laughter was untainted, pure, and I realized that for all the months I had been consumed by suspicion, lies, and heartbreak, this was the reason I had endured it all: to protect them, to make sure their world wasn't dragged down by the selfishness of two people who had no regard for the life they had built together. That evening, I changed the locks. I froze their access to shared accounts, updated passwords, and secured every financial thread that might still be vulnerable. I left a simple note on the kitchen counter for him. Should he ever return, "All your games are over. The rest is up to the law." No threats, no anger, just the cold, unshakable truth. She tried contacting me later, frantic texts, emails, even calls from blocked numbers. I didn't respond. I let the law and the weight of her own choices speak for themselves. The professional consequences would be devastating. And he realized too late that I wasn't just a wife. I was a force. Every connection, every opportunity he had leveraged through me now had walls I controlled. By Friday, the final legal papers were filed. Custody arrangements, division of assets, protection clauses, everything meticulously planned, leaving no room for manipulation. My lawyer remarked quietly, "You executed this with precision, Clara. I've never seen anything like it." I only nodded, letting the truth resonate. This wasn't revenge for ego. This was reclamation. Every decision, every action, every hour spent tracking, calculating, preparing, it had all been about peace, about regaining control over a life that had been poisoned by lies. That night, I tucked my children into bed, kissed their foreheads, and breathed. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel relief instead of fury. They were safe, the betrayal accounted for, and I had proven to myself that I was stronger than I ever knew. I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. In the reflection of the glass, I didn't see a broken wife or a woman consumed by rage. I saw clarity. I saw strategy. I saw someone who refused to be underestimated ever again. The phone rang once. A known number. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The message was clear without words. I had one not because I heard them, but because I protected what mattered and reclaimed my life. I put the phone down, exhaled, and whispered to myself, Clara Jensen doesn't lose. Not ever. Not again. And with that, I finally allowed myself to rest. The storm had passed. The betrayal was exposed. And I, Clara Jensen, was free.